Hello again, everyone. Edwin Learnard back once again. In this YouTube astrological segment, I'm going to be talking about the October 6, 2025 full moon, supermoon in Aries. Now, on October 6, 2025, there's going to be a supermoon in Aries at 14 degrees. Now, a supermoon, for those of you that may not know this, supermoon is like a full moon, except it can be more powerful and intense. Now, I believe, the effects of it can be stronger than a regular full moon, but not quite as intense as a lunar eclipse. The supermoon occurs when the moon is in its closest proximity to the Earth. And, things may really hit home, so to speak, when this transpires. The full moon in astrology can reflect very uninhibited, unrestrained emotional expression. It can represent energy that had been held back and suppressed for some time. Now, it can be when one becomes simply tired full, so to speak, of something, when really, they reach their point of endurance, holding, keeping these, pent-up emotions in for a very prolonged period of time. And when one becomes very exasperated at something that has, that they maybe haven't said anything about for a while, and then when the emotions come out, they're in full throttle. And it could also manifest in the completion, the culmination or ending of something. It can also be when you have, full moon in astrology can, be about revelations and unveilings. And this could be about something that is going to be, unveiled at this time, and it can be something of certain importance. And keep in mind that we are talking about a supermoon as opposed to a regular full moon. Now, this supermoon in Aries is also is known as the hunter's moon. It's called this because the illumination of the moon can enable hunters to hunt their prey. And from an astrological perspective and vantage point, I would say this could indicate that light that may illuminate and shine very brightly, that signals what one needs to go after in his or her life. Now, hunting, so to speak, going after what is important for you, in being in Aries in a very aggressive, assertive, and courageous manner. Now, the thing is, when you have this transit, of course, it can affect all signs collectively, all people collectively, but especially those that have an Aries or Cancer sun, moon, or ascendant. Now, Aries, of course, because it's going to be in their own sign, and Cancer because the moon rules and governs Cancer. And the zodiac sign Cancer is simply very sensitive to all transits and phases of the moon. This may figure prominently in why the zodiac sign Cancer can be so fickle, moody, and temperamental. Now, also too, this could be especially intensified if this makes a conjunction to one's Aries sun, moon, or ascendant. Now, the thing is, there also, when you're talking about, full moons, super moons in astrology, there can be a greater propensity for accidents, at this time. And emotions, again, will be in full throttle. Given that this is in Aries, it could be due to, impulsive, quick, and abrupt actions. There may be a greater proclivity toward road rage on this full moon. And again, the fact that this is a super moon, it intensifies things where, the ramifications of an accident can be a little bit stronger, more vehicle, damage, than, say, in contrast to a regular full moon. I think, given that you're talking about, impulsive, impetuous Aries, when you're, people shifting lanes need to be especially wary and careful, and, make sure there's, nobody, that close to you, when you're shifting into that other lane, and that you're giving yourself another time before, like, say you might get rear-ended or something, shifting into another lane when driving, as an example. Now, and again, people need to be extra careful and prudent, say, regarding sharp edges, say, on corners of tables, for example, working with things that could potentially burn them, such as Bunsen burners. Now, if that's a applicable. And I don't know 100% even if Bunsen burners actually exist anymore. You may want to check and confer that on the internet. But anyway, even like welding tools, anything where you're working, with some kind of fire and, things, cutting knives, things that are, tools that have sharp edges on them at this time. Be exceptionally careful, take your precautions, wear the gloves that are necessary or what have you. Now, also, too, again, when you're talking about, full moon, supermoon in astrology, it can reflect the ending or culmination of something. It could be the end of something volatile, contentious, combative. It could be an acrimonious dispute that comes to an end. Now, say, for example, if this falls in the 4th house, it could be, a contentious domestic situation, coming to an end. And if it's in the 7th, it may be with a significant other, a marriage partner, or an important friend. Now, this could be the end of, completion of a project that was pioneering and innovative. It may be the end of something where one had expressed, certain abruptness, outspokenness. Maybe there was something sports related or some position, that required leadership prowess and ability. And it was something that you may have worked on where you just simply were not readily discouraged. Now, another thing, too, is that this could be, again, full moons in astrology, supermoons can be about revelations and unveilings. This could be a revelation or unveiling of something. It can be a revelation of one's courage, fortitude. Maybe there's something with the identity, one's identity or an issue with identity. Maybe there was something acrimonious or, anger or leadership prowess and ability, initiative, pioneering spirit, one's ability to fight, or even something about being easily provoked and maybe something that a person was not, overly cognizant or conscious of initially. It can be, also, as an example, let's say, if this falls in one's 12th house, it could be, in some remote cases, a mental illness that is unveiled or revealed that's connected with anger or some private battle that you decide to open up about. Now, in isolated cases, it could be something like, like an intermittent explosive disorder. Now, especially if this makes, if it makes an adverse aspect to one's Uranus in their natal chart in the process of being, and along with it being in the 12th house. Now, it could also be, perhaps a volatile, like an Aries type hidden adversary, which is the 12th house coming to light at this time and being exposed. Now, another thing too is that this could be, a time, again, full moons could be about where one simply becomes tired, exasperated, or full of something. Now, being in Aries, it could be over someone's, impetuousness, impulsiveness, pushiness, abruptness, or a person just being overly outspoken, maybe just for the sake of being so. It can be over an argumentative or very combative person. It may have to do with the person being tired of having, of doing things spontaneously, without planning. I'd say especially if this is like, say, a person that's got like a dominant earth influence or somebody, the chart indicates that they're very, like premeditative, such as having Saturn conjunct the ascendant. It could be, if somebody is a person that's more about planning and premeditation, this could be really, especially at time where the person is really getting tired of having to just do things on the fly and in a more spontaneous manner. Now, this could also be the ending, in some cases, of some Aries-related job or position, and especially if this falls in what I would consider, one of the money houses, which would be the 2nd, 6th, or 10th house. This could be the end, of doing something with arson investigation. As an example, speech pathology, physiology, surgery, law enforcement. Could be a military position, welding, carpentry, firefighting, or it could just be something sports related. It could be some position that involves the head, such as somebody designing, headwear. Now, also, too, Now, look at the house this falls in your natal chart, as this could impact its delineation and interpretation. Now, mine is going to fall in the 12th house. This could manifest in a number of ways. It could be about becoming, more cognizant that some kind of impulsiveness or anger, which is Aries, may be the self-undoing, which is the 12th house. And it could be about recognizing, being, with the full moon, having this reveal, about having that courage and fortitude, which is Aries, to combat. Again, that's Aries' hidden adversaries, which is the 12th house, people that may have been impersonating themselves as friends, but were actually hidden enemies. And also, the end of emphasizing, enthusiasm, which is Aries, in things that are done in solitude and seclusion, which is the 12th house. I'll be honest, though, with me, I don't think I'm going to really end anything that I do enthusiastically in solitude and seclusion, because I just love, I'm very enamored with doing things in solitude and seclusion, as some of you may know. But at the same time, somebody else that has this transit, in that same, the Aries in the 12th house, it could manifest in that manner for, him or her. So anyway, people, that'll conclude this YouTube astrological segment. Until next time, Edwin Learnard saying, stay well.